All right, welcome everybody. We have Kamil Haque here, and he's the founder and artistic director of Haque Center of Acting and Creativity, HCAC for short. They've been around for almost a decade. Singapore's first acting school for everyone. He's trained more than 10,000 people. Many have gone to become professional actors. Okay, this is quite cool. And one of them is Henry Golding. If you watch Crazy Rich Asians, that's the dude. He also is involved in the corporate world. He has been training the 50 of the biggest brands and brings theatre into the workplace. Why would you think so? Increasing productivity, engagement, and reduce attrition. So he's coached some of the leaders that we are not at liberty to say. Right? So thank you, Kamil, for joining us.
Thank you, Jason.
Awesome. So I'm always very curious about why on earth anybody would choose acting in Singapore. My parents would be like, okay, even though they didn't tell me to do acting, nobody would say that you should pursue acting, music, any kind of arts, ballet and all that. That, in my mind, sometimes they put it as like, okay, it's only for children. Let them explore ballet for a while and all that. Then after that, go into something more serious like engineering, anything else. So for you, take us back when you felt that this was something. Take us back, did you do other jobs first? Then you knew that, I've done other things and I don't like that. How did it really start?
So, to be fair, my parents never pushed this on me as this is your career path. This is something that we want you to do.
Okay.
They have the concerns like any other Singaporean parent.
Yeah.
But they've always had they've always given me the liberty to make these decisions on my own. And I was really fortunate to sort of have a moment of calling when I was 7 years old. My parents brought me to Orchard Cinema, which is now Orchard Cineleisure, to watch Dead Poets Society, which is a film starring Robin Williams as a really charismatic poetry and literature teacher. Yeah. And as a 7-year-old watching the film without giving away any spoilers, it doesn't pan out the way that you would anticipate with a tidy bow ending. And so after the film is done, my dad, he puts me into the back seat and then we're driving home. And in the back seat, I'm starting to ask them questions about how come this happened in the film? How come this happened in the film? And I'm asking them questions that are perhaps beyond what a 7-year-old should ask, to the point that I distinctly remember my dad jamming the brakes, both my parents looking to the back seat and giving me this look like they brought home the wrong child. And there was something really beautiful and surreal in that moment where they're like, who are you? And I'm like, I kind of like that I've got their attention in this moment. And
but dude, Dead Poets Society is such a deep show.
Yeah.
It affected you.
Oh, on a cellular DNA level, it awoken things in this 7-year-old that I didn't even know could exist.
7 years is like primary one, man.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And they gave me this look, and I knew in that moment, like, this is it. This is something I need to do for the rest of my life. I need to be involved in storytelling, in acting, in something in this, because something that I saw affected me, that affected the two people that I care about the most. Yeah. There is a correlation here.
Right.
Only much later on did I also realize that I was also deeply affected by how charismatic a teacher and an influence Robin Williams' character was to the students in his classroom.
Yes.
And for the rest of my life, I basically dedicated it towards the arts.
That is like, it's very rare that people have that. I see that most of the time if I want to be a teacher, and because you already have experienced a good teacher, but it's very rare that somebody so young will be able to do that. Did you try to explore other things to say that, yes, maybe that's great, but I want to try other things? Have you ever tried? Did that thought come to mind in the first place?
So by virtue of growing up in Singapore in the late 80s, early 90s, you don't have a lot of options when it comes to the arts. Yeah. So then you're almost, by scarcity, you are forced to try other things anyway. Like, let's just have you focus on sports. Now let's just have you focus on your serious subjects. Yeah. But I never gave up on acting classes on the side, acting as a ECA or CCA. And so it was always there in the foreground. It was just a matter of how loud it was and how present it was in my life at different stages. At a certain point in my life, I was like, oh, maybe I really want to be a lawyer like my dad. I was like, no, it looks like the hours are really terrible. I don't really want this.
Yeah.
Because I never really saw my dad growing up. Then it's like, oh, maybe I want to be in advertising like my mom. And I was like, oh, no, I don't really want this also because I don't really see my mom either. These are really terrible jobs. What was it that would make me really happy? And like, it's got to be acting. And so it's never wavered from when I was 7, even though I've tried other things.
Right. So from 7, you had a passion for it. You had certain like, okay, it hit you really hard. And so what next? Then did you like, okay, so I'm gonna go into a competition to validate that I'm good, or am I gonna start teaching? What is next after 7?
So I basically grew up as a latchkey kid, meaning my parents were never home.
Okay.
And to prevent me sort of just being raised by our then helper, they would, as a typical Singaporean parent would do, they put me all sorts of extracurricular and enrichment classes.
Yeah.
And at around the age of 7/8 was when I met my very first mentor, who's now since passed. Her name is Julia Gabriel. And she started the Julia Gabriel's Speech and Drama Center, which is now called Julia Gabriel Center. And I was with her when she first started her school in Halifax Road near the KK hospitals.
Yep.
And she was the first adult who I encountered at that young, tender age who, whenever I would meet her in the hallways, it wouldn't be an adult just walking past the child. She would stop me, she would look me in the eye, and she would say, "Hey, Kamil, how are you doing?"
That's rare, man.
And it, in this tiny little version of me, it's like, how come this adult is talking to me? 2, why is this person making eye contact with me? 3, she's holding space for me because it sounds and it feels like she genuinely cares.
Yeah.
And I'd never really encountered an adult like that in my entire life. And I was like, I need to be around this person more.
Right.
And so she gave me opportunities to volunteer around her school.
Yeah.
And that gave me even more of the impetus that, this is I've definitely made the right choice. I need to be around adults like this who let me do things that give me a sense of purpose.
Right.
So I would sort of like dread going to school Monday through Friday. And then on Saturdays, like I'd have classes for 2 hours, say like 10 to like 12. But I would stay there till like 5, 6 until the school was closing, just so I can just be around her, be around the school. So she was effectively my first mentor who placed in me the concrete desire to love the craft of acting. Yeah.
Wow. And so when you were volunteering and all that, because every passion, if you really think about it, if you have passion but you have no performance, it's a hobby. But you have passion, you have high performance, that means you're really good at your game. Then it's really something you can call a profession. So your first few times was it more of I'm acting and she's telling me that you should do it this way, that way, you're training, she's training you? Or was it the teaching part? Because you're doing both now. You're acting and you're teaching. And it's a different thing. A good actor might not be a good teacher.
Sure.
So how do you increase performance when it comes... Was it then that you were increasing performance? Were you both on stage and teaching other people?
Actually, yes. So funny enough, when you talk about the performance side of things, so then there's the performance that I get to train within those class hours with her and other teachers. And then they give me the feedback on how to get better. And then there's the performance side of being a facilitator, a teacher, an instructor, where in those hours from 12 to say 6, I'd be working in her school library. And so what that would mean is typically at first is just arranging books and making sure that the place is quiet and orderly. And then it evolved into, hey, the library is really busy as the school gets more popular. Do you think you can help us run the reading room sessions to the kids that are younger than you? I was like, sure, no problem.
So it's like the big book and it once upon a
right,
time.
Right. So then I'd read these really, really big books. And then as it evolved, I began to read like War of the Worlds. And I saw adults do segments of it and how they made War of the Worlds come to life.
Right.
And I listened to old radio recordings by Orson Welles about War of the Worlds, and I saw how enraptured these kids were, and all the more it's like, I want to do more of that. And because as a kid you don't know what failure means, right? And you're not cynical about life. You're like, let's just experiment, let's just see what happens. And so I was already gaining my own facilitation hours in the little reading room. as a kid.
Yeah.
And here I am. I'm getting to express myself as an actor, getting to express my performance side of things as a facilitator. And I didn't even realize that even more, the seeds were not just being planted; they were beginning to bloom
Yeah.
in a way that I didn't anticipate.
Wow. So you helped out as a facilitator, but you also were getting taught.
Yeah.
Where did it stop for that? Like how far did it go? Did it, like, for example, or you did big productions? Was it like, like usually for like these kind of CCAs, right? Usually they have a performance where, okay, come all parents, come down, let's see your kid there and all that. Were you like the lead actor there? And that's why, like, wow, actually not bad, huh? Oh, what happened?
It was a case of it wasn't any like one big production that I was in. I was always.
But were they like small productions?
There were definitely a lot of small productions.
All the parents came down?
All the parents came.
Okay.
There were like inter-class drama competitions where I would devise my own scripts, create my own characters, direct my own shows, and then.
So you started script writing there already?
Already, well, this is now moving into secondary school.
Yeah.
So then within the secondary school, from the ages of 13 to 16, there'd be an annual inter-class drama competition.
Yeah.
And I would write, direct, act in my own pieces.
This is for school?
For schools.
Not for the...
No.
Okay, so for schools?
For schools.
They had a drama thing. You started to write it.
I started to write, act, direct. So I already had a sense of purpose and some skill sets from doing shows in Julia School and then some other acting schools as a kid. And then this drama competition came about. And I was like, oh, let me take part because I really enjoy doing this. And then what would happen is every year I'd be winning like best play, best actor, best play, best actor, best script, best director. I'm like, oh, I'm getting some validation from this stuff. And it wasn't just from my peers. It was outside judges and who would validate what I was doing. People who didn't know me other than the small segment of my performance. Like, all right, I must be okay at this stuff.
Yeah.
And so, and then alongside this, in my secondary school life, I would take part in these big extravaganza musicals that we would tour around the world. And again, it gave me the opportunity to test my performing muscles in venues that are far larger than a 13-year-old should have any rights to be in. And again, it gave me more confidence and sense of purpose. And again, testing out that performance muscle as you're talking about.
But for those overseas ones, that sounded even more serious.
Oh, yeah.
How do you even get that opportunity?
That was, again, purely through school.
So the school helped you to say that, okay, since you're so good in drama, I'll take you, or take your entire team.
And or we'll take a bunch of you. We're going to create a musical. Within these musicals, there'll be singing, dancing components. There'll be acting components. Truthfully, not a great dancer, not a great singer. Happy to admit to that.
Okay.
Acting was my thing. And so I would always get these acting roles within the musicals.
Right.
And they would give me the opportunity to say, hey, listen, we're going to take this musical to Hong Kong. Can you do some of the acting components in it? We're going to take this musical to KL. Can you do some acting in it? I'm like, sure.
I don't think every school has that.
All schools are good schools.
Okay, yeah. But I don't think every school has that bandwidth to say that, okay, for this one, I'm going to organize something where I'm going to train some people, put in resources, and fly you to Hong Kong and do for who?
People over there.
Wow. Okay, so you did that. So even after secondary school, so while in secondary school, you're already doing that.
Yep.
Take us after that. Because I want to know where... After everything, how do you even set up that, and what do you even do before you set up? Do you act in? Because I know you went US for a while and things like that.
Yeah.
So after that, you validated. Okay, this is for me. Then what? JC, Army. What happened?
So then, as someone growing up through the Singapore education system, it was never for me, and I have no qualms of saying I'm a proud failure of the Singapore education system, or at least the iteration of the Singapore education system then.
Yeah.
And there'd be moments when I get really, really amazing grades, and then everyone would think it's a miracle. I would think it's a miracle. But for the most part, I was a mediocre student because I believed in my own mediocrity as within academics.
Okay.
And so one of the big turning points for me was when I collected my A-level results. And my teacher looked at my diploma or cert, and then she gave it to me and she said, "You got exactly what you deserve." And she was right. She was 100% right.
Oh no.
But in that moment, I realized that I let someone else declare my mediocrity. It wasn't of my doing. This was my mediocrity was my own doing, but I let someone have power over me and live rent free in my head. And something clicked where I've got to not allow myself to be mediocre again.
Yes.
And I've got to make sure that if acting really is my purpose, I've got to find a way to make sure that this might be my last shot at making it. How do I not screw it up for myself?
Yeah.
And so, again, truth be told, to begin a life in the arts, you do need to come from some level of privilege. And I'll admit to that. I had some level of privilege growing up.
Right. So you need some financial backing.
Yes.
Right.
And
just coming back again, when they said that you deserve it, you didn't get good grades, lah.
Yeah. Horrendous grades.
I don't
for the
know.
record.
Like,
Yes.
you deserve it. Yeah. Like, oh wow, you got 4 A's.
Oh yeah. No.
Okay. So shit grades.
Shit grades.
Okay. So can't go anywhere.
Can't go anywhere. I explored what my options were in Singapore at that time. There were none really.
Okay.
And
so if you couldn't go anywhere, then just straight away join army, that kind of.
That actually was one of the things that my dad did consider for me. Like, why don't we just have you do the early enlistment?
Oh my goodness.
Because it looks like what we're gonna do with you.
Okay. So academically, total failure.
Total failure.
Okay. So then you got a choice now. So with some financial backing, where do you go?
So then I go into NS and I.
Oh, you went to NS.
I went NS right after my A levels.
Oh my goodness, you were really an early enlister.
Pretty much. Well, not really. Well, yes and no.
We also, all of us went. All of us. Okay, so you went NS. You had 2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Did you do any acting there?
I couldn't and I didn't because you're stuck in back then I was essentially office hours of like 9 to 5 or 7 to 5.
I thought you could go to like MC. I don't know what.
Well, I didn't know that existed in my day either. And then by the time I knew it existed,
gone already.
I missed the boat to be able to audition because it's something you need to declare when you're enlisting for army. I'm like, I wish someone told me.
Okay. So you missed that.
I missed that boat.
Oh my goodness, because like they do that all the time.
All the time. I was like, why didn't someone tell me this existed?
Well, you would have been, you would have loved it. Okay,
right?
So after army, then what happened?
So then in army, I would, to keep my mind still alive and fresh, I would enroll myself in college credit classes. And what would happen is part of the I'm never going to be mediocre again, that switch clicked. Yeah. And then I started to get consistent A's and I was like, oh, this feels nice. I'm doing well. But
what do you mean? That means college? That means you were trying to get
college credits, like I'd do like international relations, I would do lit, I would do geography.
All these things is so that you have a better grade than your A levels.
Correct.
So with that, you can actually, it's a ticket to somewhere else.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
I didn't know that.
Correct.
I didn't know. But you had that. Isn't that a proper course?
It was modules within the program.
Okay, so as long as you do like 5, 10, 15 modules, you
Correct.
get a grade.
Correct.
You can go and apply
Correct.
to university.
Correct. And I can use those grades as part of my transfer certificate, essentially.
Understand. Okay.
Almost to compensate for the really crappy A levels.
Okay, got it.
And so now I'm starting to get consistent A's, but I still don't have a lot of options in my life.
Yeah.
I'm getting to the tail end of NS, and I'm feeling.
How do you even get A's when academic is not very good?
Because for one, the college credit classes were within the American system of things. So to me, the big differences there were they were encouraging critical thinking. I didn't have to just memorize and regurgitate.
Okay.
Do
you also choose modules that play to your strengths? Or no?
To some degree. So I did do a drama module. I did do lit modules, but I also did geography, political science. I did marine biology.
Right. So it just could be that the system allowed for critical thinking.
Correct.
And that's where you thrive.
Correct.
Really, just like there's no real good answer. It is what you believe and how you present it.
And how do I advocate for this answer?
Okay, and presenting is something that you have already been thinking of for a very long time.
Correct. It's like, how can I present you my thesis?
Yes.
And how can I really fight for my thesis?
Got it.
Knowing that someone actually wants to listen rather than, sorry, this is not the tennis series answer.
You flip backwards? No, don't.
Right. No, it's the A, B, or C. You're giving D. Wrong.
Yeah. Okay. So actually, when you were younger, you would have thrived in an American system.
Probably, maybe. Who knows? I mean, all things be equal, sure.
Okay. So you did that, and then what happened?
So then I'm still lost because options are limited in Singapore. Yeah. I'm getting to the tail end of my national service stint, and I decide to go have a conversation with Julia again. And I hadn't seen her in maybe 10 years or so. And I sit down with her and say, hey, Julia, realistically, I've been doing really terribly in the Singapore system. I'm finally getting some A's. I know that acting is something I really want to do,
right?
But I don't have any options in Singapore. And again, she gives me that same, she's, Kamil, sit down. And again, she looks me in the eye, and she always had this really wonderful quality of holding space for people. And again, she said, sit down, let me talk to you. Let me give you some options for you to consider. And she starts naming a bunch of schools for me, of acting schools. If this is something you want to do, try these schools in Australia, in the UK, and the United States. And then she said, meanwhile, since you're going to be done with NS, this is what I want you to do for me. I want you to come and teach for me while you're trying to figure out what you want to do next. And then in my mind, I'm like, I'm 21 years old. I've never really taught anyone in a structured environment in my entire life. This is not for me. And then she said, Kamil, I want you to remember this. You remember when you were 7 years old? What did you do in my library? I'm like, I used to read to the 5-year-olds and I read them War of the Worlds. So, yep, I remember that. And she said, teaching is basically like that, except now you're this size and the kids are that size. That's the only difference. All you're doing is activating them. And I'm like, oh, okay. If you say you think I can do it, I can do it. And then she said, all right, so then you're going to join me and you're going to work for me. On top of that, this is what I want you to do. I want you to teach my special needs kids. I'm like, and then now in the non-PC way of saying it, this is early 2000s. I said, Julie, if I'm going to be honest, those kids are already broken. I'll probably break them even more. And she said, no, you're not. I trust you. You know what you're doing. Just give it a shot. And I said, sure, you say so, I'm going to do that. So for a year, I taught special needs kids. I also taught kids with no learning challenges whatsoever. And it awoken and concretized even more this love for teaching and facilitation that had been dormant for so many years. And it gave me the beginnings of my voice as a teacher. How do I want to facilitate the classroom? So that's number one. And then number two, from the list of schools that she gave me to consider, I was so overwhelmed that my mentor gave me a job offer. I honestly forgot all the names of the schools that she told me, except one. Because it sounded like a French football team. And then I go home and I Googled Strasbourg acting. And then Google said, did you mean Strasbourg acting? I'm like, yes, Google, if that's what it's supposed to be. And I'm pointed towards a school in LA that has trained De Niro, Al Pacino, Paul Newman, Marilyn Monroe. And I'm like, oh, I know these actors. I like these actors. If these people have trained there, I should probably train there too. So again, through privilege and permission of my parents, I secured a place at the Strasbourg Institute in LA. And not only that, I also managed to hustle my way into getting an opportunity to teach in the school, even before I graduated.
So you're earning money there?
I'm already earning money there.
And you're already honing your craft of being a teacher?
Correct. Because I declared on day one of picking my classes at the Strasbourg Institute, hey, it's really nice that you want to teach me acting and all. What I really want to do here is I want to teach. And like, you can't. I'm like, why? I've taught in Singapore for a whole year, me being this cocky 21, 22-year-old. And they're like, yeah, you can't teach here. I'm like, wow, what's the problem? Because you don't know what we teach. I'm like, that's a fair point. And then I said, I'm not leaving this office until we can find some sort of mid-ground. And the administrator at the time said, listen, I tell you what, you pick your classes, you start your semester. If you can complete the 2-year program, we can talk about you teaching. I said, works for me, let's get the classes going. Within about 6 to 9 months, I found another mentor who's also recently just passed this year. Her name's Hedy Sontag, and she took me around her under her wings, and she said, I'll teach you to teach what I teach. And she was, at the time, one of the last few teachers left alive who Lee Strasberg had trained to teach. And he said, before I pass, I want you to know how I teach so that you can continue my work. And so there's a very direct lineage from the Grand Master himself. And so...
And the Grand Master is one that taught all the A-level...
Correct. A-star actors.
A-star
correct,
actors.
Correct. And so she trained me, and what would happen is she would say, okay, Kamil, in the class, you take the first 2 minutes. and then I'll teach. And after the 2 minutes, she'll say, "Come sit next to me." And she said, "Okay, this is what's working. This is what's not working." Like,
Right.
And then maybe next week, okay, come and take 5 minutes of this class. And then again, Kamil, this is what's working. This is what's not working.
Right.
And then slowly the time would increase to the point where I would take half her classes. I would sometimes when she's unwell, I would be the substitute teacher.
This is after you graduated? Or
This
have
is still while I'm studying the
So you're a
craft.
student teaching students.
Correct.
But you're teaching the level ones or
No,
what year
there's no such thing as level ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just a student taking over to teach where the teacher was supposed to be
Correct,
teaching. And
correct.
wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And then what happened is by the time the 2-year program is
Yeah.
done, and I go back to the office and I speak to the administrator, and she say, "Hey, congratulations, here's your certificate for finishing the program."
Yeah.
And then I said, "Great, so let's talk about the teaching."
yeah, okay, like teacher.
And then she said, "Oh, aren't you already teaching here?"
Yeah.
And I went, "Why, yes, I'm already teaching here."
Yeah.
And she said, "Great, well, you're starting with your own classes on Monday." I'm like, "All right."
Awesome.
So then I started teaching that, and I taught there for 6 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay, so very curious. In life, I believe that if you want something, you need to reach for it. You need to ask it. If you don't ask it, nobody's going to offer you teaching jobs and all that. What gave you the audacity to go and ask them, as a student, I can teach? What inside you says that I know this is for me, I just need to find opportunities, I'm going to just ask?
I think it's one of the, without realizing it, it's maybe one of the ethos of the entrepreneur, which is there's a level of willing to gamble or
Yes.
to play the high stakes game a little bit.
It's all bets.
It's all bets.
Entrepreneurship is all bets.
Right.
Yeah.
And so here I am where I don't have anything going on for me in Singapore.
Yeah.
I have this going on for me in LA. I'm pretty okay at it. Why not throw the dice and see what happens? And to be honest, also, maybe it's the courage of being by myself in the States, understanding that what have I got to lose? The worst thing they'll do is say no, and then I go back to Singapore. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just throw the dice. And there is something in the air, in the water, in the States that gives you the confidence to have those conversations, to make those risks, to say, so what if I fail? I can try again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I hope that air and water comes to Singapore.
Yeah. That's the new water that we really need. Yeah.
Okay, so after that, and you started teaching for 6 years. So you have two paths, right? One is the teaching path, one is the actual acting path. How did the acting path go for you?
So, to your viewers at home, with a face that looks like this, in post 9/11 America, yesterday's headlines are going to be tomorrow's stories. And so what happens is all the stories post 9/11 all had villains that basically had this face. They were typically Middle Eastern terrorists. For the record, I am not Middle Eastern, nor am I a terrorist. Jason, you know me well enough to know that I'm not a violent person by any stretch of the imagination. And yet these are the roles that I would get. And so in a way, part of me as a young 20-something-year-old was angry that I would get these roles, but I grew up enough in my 8 years in LA to realize that this is a representation of how I might look, but it's not a representation of who I actually am.
Yeah.
And so once I learned to separate that, then I learned to advocate more for these stories and to bring a level of maturity and depth to these sorts of roles where, it's very easy for anyone for an audience to say, oh, that's the good guy and that's the bad guy.
Yes,
right?
especially for Disney.
Especially for Disney.
It's
right?
like bad guy, ugly. Bad guy, conniving, always laughs. Good guy, pleasant.
Blonde hair, long flowing locks.
Flawless skin.
Correct.
Things like that. So it's but they're changing that around, right?
They are, and the reason and part of how they're changing it is that they're understanding that life isn't so black and white.
Yeah.
And the best parts of life live in the nuances of the gray. And so how do I bring a level of humanity to a terrorist? So it's not, a terrorist is who they're labeled as, but they're also someone's father, someone's son, someone's brother, someone's cousin. One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Right? How do I bring that level of maturity and humanity to the sorts of roles that I would have to play?
Right.
So again, as I'm acting, I'm learning about life, and
Yeah.
I'm learning to express myself in ways that I wouldn't, because in my daily life I'm not violent, I don't say vile things,
Yeah.
I don't have extremist views,
Yeah.
but I get to live these other lives and it doesn't cost me anything. I get to take on these risks and explore my voice in other
Yeah.
capacities, and it doesn't hurt me.
Right.
And so then, as I'm acting, I'm growing as a human being. But as I'm acting, I'm growing as a teacher, because I can say, hey, listen,
Yeah.
these are things that I'm actually experiencing. Let me tell you about them. These are things that you will face when you go into the industry. Let me teach you about what to anticipate.
Right,
These are
right.
things that you need to do in order to navigate the business or show business. Let me teach you. And so I was somehow able to straddle the two.
Right.
Yeah.
I realized that I was watching, I think Matthew McConaughey, I don't know how to pronounce
McConaughey?
This. McConaughey. And he shared about his, this whole idea of stereotyping. And he was rom-com all the way, right? And he wanted to break out, and he said that he couldn't. So for many, many years, he just turned down offer after offer, big offers, like what, a couple million, one, I think it was 9 million, he says no. So then after then he did other things. Then he did so well in other things like Interstellar and all that. And he broke out that stereotype. But it was very painful many, many years for him. So what you're telling me sometimes, if I'm thinking about it, if even when Michelle Yeoh, who just won the Grammys,
SAG Awards.
SAG Awards,
And Golden Globes.
Golden Globes, not Grammys. Grammys is for music.
Yeah.
So when Michelle Yeoh won that, she has been acting for what, 20 over years?
More than that.
40, okay,
Yeah.
so a huge number of years. So this whole idea that sometimes that stereotype just sticks.
And it's not necessarily a bad thing.
And it can't come out. You can't, like, it's difficult because it's just basically the environment that we're in, the marketplace. And all that. So for you in that area, if I would put myself in your position, I want to act, but I'm always given these roles. How do you fight that? Or do you just go with it? Or do you say that, what was on your mind? Because that, if I were in your position, that would have been a big blow for me in my dreams. Ever since I watched that Dead Poet Society, I thought I could be anybody, but because of my face, I can't. Then why don't you just stop and just like, what made you just carry on?
Don't get me wrong, I definitely had many conversations over my 8 years there. Like, maybe I should pack it up. Maybe I should go home. What am I doing here? And part of one of the wake-up calls that I had was my very first agent that I got in LA would send me out consistently for these Middle Eastern terrorist roles, and then he said, "Oh, you got a beard. You look a bit like olive skin, dark skin. Let's, I'm going to send you out for pedophile roles, rapist roles.
Right.
Maybe you
How do you feel when he said that?
When he first said that, I was really, at first I was like, oh, cool, I'm getting work, and then
At least work, right?
At least work at the start, compared to nothing, right? And then it became, your third job is going to be the same thing, the fourth job, the fifth job, the sixth audition, the seventh audition. And it got to the point where I was increasingly getting really angry because I couldn't separate myself from the work that I was doing. And then it got to the point where I still remember this. I called him up one day and I said, I don't want to be sent up for these sorts of roles anymore. I am more than just this. I'm a trained actor. I believe I can da. And he was just very, very quiet. At the end of the phone call, he said, listen, when you grow up, you call me back.
Oh my goodness.
And then he hung up on me. And then I wanted to, how dare you hang up on me? I'm the one who's angry with you. But of course, he'd already hung up, so I didn't say that. And so I was just raging in my house. And I was like, well, then you know what? Screw him. I'll do it my own way. And I didn't work for about 6 to 8 months. As an actor, I mean. And so then I began to twiddle my thumbs. I'm like, shit, maybe he's got a point. And then I began to realize that in his very harsh way of communicating to me about growing up, part of that growing up is to not take it so personally. It is an extension of how I look, but it's not who I am. Is it something that I could be trapped in forever? Potentially, but I'm still a working actor at the end of the day. But also, same with the Matthew McConaughey story, to bring it back to what you're saying, is eventually if you prove to be so good at one thing, someone else might go, hey, you're really good at this one thing. I'm willing to throw the dice with you and say, hey, can you do something else? Which is what happened to him. And so, same thing for me. I basically realized I need to grow up, and then I did more of those things, and then people said, hey, you're not bad at this thing.
Yeah.
Do you want to try something else? And then I got to do other things that filled my soul, that helped me express other facets of my skill sets. Yeah.
So I like to say that in life and in business, you need to manufacture luck, and the only way you can manufacture luck is to put yourself in positions where the potential 3 levels away who is really going to hire you next time is going to be there looking at you. So when you manufacture luck, you try to be as open as possible to every opportunity, no matter how big or small, but you're always in the right place and your sale is always up. And you're just waiting, and one day that will come. So for you, would you say that once you did that and all that, because there are 2 professions, you're actually juggling 2 professions. One is acting and one is teaching, and both it seems like you really are very passionate about. What happened in the end? And after that, how do you even come back to Singapore? Why not just stay there and continue pushing for acting and teaching?
So, having then been in the States for about 8 years, I began to realize, okay, I'm sort of reaching the peak of where I can go as a teacher.
Yeah.
As an actor, I'm like, okay, I'm getting roles that are beyond what I've been stereotyped as. But I'm also fully aware that the big picture is, at the end of the day, I'm a foreigner in a foreign land.
Yeah.
And the goal was always, at some point in my life, to come back to Singapore to open my own studio. In my head, the magic number was when I was 45 years old. And I'd say, okay, I'll come back when I'm 45 years old. This will be my quote-unquote retirement plan.
Right.
And then I'll die facilitating a workshop or something. What had happened was, when I was 30, I had the opportunity to help start and produce the first ever ASEAN Film Festival. It was the first time that all 10 countries came together, and this was in Malaysia, in Kuching, Malaysia. So delegates from all 10 countries came, films from all 10 countries came, workshops from all 10 countries came. We had Michelle Yeoh as the very first VIP for this festival as well. So to try and pull all of this together, it required me to then knock on doors, make phone calls, and say, hey, listen, you're from the Malaysian film market, you're from the Thai film market. We'd like to, pay for your flight, for your hotel. We want you to send your films and send some delegates from your film community to this festival. Would you be interested? Same thing with Singapore.
Yeah.
And in making these calls and knocking on doors, it became a case of, well, who the hell are you and why should I trust you? What makes you, how do I know this is not some sort of sham festival? And I had to sort of like pony up and say, hey, this is some level of credibility that I have from working in LA. And then like, oh, so you teach and you act. Are you going to open an acting school? I'm, yes, I am, when I'm 45. Oh, well, if you really want, you should open one now. I'm like, okay, thank you for your feedback. I'm really here to get you to come join this festival. And then I had the same repetitive conversation again and again and again.
Why?
Oh,
why?
There was a sense of a dissatisfaction that I felt on the ground in 2013, where how can we begin to up our game to, I guess, the gold standard of Hollywood at the time, or the gold standard of, say, Hong Kong films at the time. And there were no real avenues where actors could really train or get the level of accessibility to these sorts of training opportunities beyond, say, degree programs. So then not everyone wants to do that. Not everyone can do that. Not everyone has the privilege to
fly over.
Or even to dedicate 3-4 years of their time training here, because they still got to put food on their table. And so I was like, okay, thank you for the feedback about opening the school now. And it happened so many times to the point where...
And they don't know you.
And they didn't know me other than these are my credentials, right?
So you felt that it's almost like they're looking for a savior.
Maybe. And
and they're looking for, why don't you save the film festival and save the acting and theatre community in the Asia and do that and train people?
When you put it like that, maybe. But then I put myself... It's okay. I don't want to use the word savior because it's a loaded word, right? But it's it definitely gave me a sense that, okay, maybe I do have a place here.
Maybe there's demand.
Maybe there is a demand. I have shown up with the credibility of
Yeah.
the history of my work.
Yeah.
This is sort of like building and creating your own luck, right?
Yes.
So to me, creating your own luck, I boil it down to credibility and visibility, right? So then this is the credibility of everything I've done up till now.
Yeah.
This is the visibility of I'm knocking on your doors, I'm making the phone calls,
Yeah.
I'm honoring you by wanting to give you this opportunity.
Yeah.
And then sort of like a quid pro quo sort of situation.
Yeah.
So then it happened so many times that after the festival was done, I knew that my only choice was to not go back to LA,
Okay.
stay in Singapore, and then open my own studio.
Okay.
So yeah,
And you had you had experience in teaching
yep,
and acting,
yep,
but no experience in business.
zero, absolutely zero.
Yeah, so that's the thing. A lot of people who are extremely passionate, it's okay to being a freelancer because everything else is taken care of by other people. You're just doing that one thing. If you're setting up a studio, you're doing everything.
Yep.
That is a very steep learning curve
Yes.
and it's painful.
Yes.
Yeah. So why not just freelance for somebody in Singapore that has a studio?
Because I knew that's not what I wanted, and also I tried it out
Oh, you did?
without naming the institution.
Yeah,
I said, okay, I've started my studio. It's
Yeah.
still the early days.
Yeah.
I have enough
You have free
bandwidth in my
time. So
time.
there's
Let me
no-
just sort of
Exactly.
try out teaching
Yeah.
in some of the
Because
local.
that's the safest way to try out your passion.
Right.
Freelance for somebody. Don't set up a whole thing. Don't get rent and all that. And you tried it out. Why didn't you carry on?
Because I very quickly found myself turning to the kind of teacher that I hated, which is because it's at the end of the day an academic institution
Right.
that's bound by the rules of the Ministry of Education, so on
Yeah.
and so forth.
So you got boxes to check.
I got boxes to check. I got reports to do. I became that teacher. If you don't come to class, I have to fail you.
Yes.
And that wasn't the system that I was, again, exposed to
Yeah.
in LA. It was either you show up or the industry will eat you alive.
Yeah.
Either you work hard or the industry will eat you alive.
Yeah.
An A grade or diploma or degree doesn't actually matter in the audition room.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually matter when you're on set, when you're on stage. It's either you can do it or you can't. And again, it's smart and hard work, that consistency and repetition of effort,
Yeah.
showing up even when you don't feel like it, showing up even when you don't know what you're doing, just keep chipping away.
Yeah.
And so because I started feeling I was turning to the kind of teacher that I hated. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, tried it, not for me. I'm going to go 100% into really building my own space
Okay.
where people are not bound by grades. They're not
Right.
bound by the structure of you must do X number of classes in order to graduate with a diploma.
Right.
I created my own slice of essentially LA with my own studio.
Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, but then all the headache of being a business owner comes in.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So if I want to try to help everybody understand what that passion is that you had, and now they've set up a studio and all that. Passion is three things. Firstly, is interest, that you're able to talk about it, and looks like you're able to talk about it a lot, right? You had mentors that can teach you that knowledge, and you are able to banter with and talk about. That's passion. Interest. The second one is strengths, right? When you were doing all these things, besides Julia, did other people pinpoint that hey, actually you are a natural, or did you look at yourself and like, I'm a natural? What was it?
It was over the course of my life.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate to have benefited from the kindness and generosity of mentors.
Okay.
Sometimes they're mentors of my choosing, like Julia and Hedy.
Yeah.
And I have another mentor. Fortunately, she's still alive. Her name's
Yeah.
Claudette. And then these are mentors of my choosing.
Right.
And then I've had mentors who've come into my life who, despite, say, for example, we go back a little bit into the Singapore education system, where teachers would say, you know what, Kamil? I know that if you really apply yourself, you can do it. I know you've got the potential.
Yeah.
When 99% of everyone else says you're a failure, you cannot make it, one person says, I believe in you.
Yeah.
I know you can do it.
Yeah.
All it takes is one person.
Yeah.
And I've been really fortunate that enough people have said that enough times where you begin to go, okay, they can't all be wrong.
Yeah.
Right? And especially people who don't believe you are typically very dismissive of you. They don't hold space for you. People who do believe in you will take the time to make sure that, hey, I'm planting this seed. I don't know where it's going to go, but I need you to know this. And then they walk away.
Right.
I've benefited from that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when it comes to this whole idea that you have mentors, and this is a very interesting thing. A lot of times, if you want to be good in your craft, like let's say you're passionate about whatever it is, you want to be good in your craft, you need to find people who are willing to teach you, and you become student mode, right? And if you didn't have those mentors in your life, what would have happened?
Sliding doors, right? Who knows?
Yeah.
But then I put it back to you, right?
Yeah.
What was that moment where you had someone who planted that seed in you, and you went, yeah, that finally has given me that click moment, that light bulb moment. What would be that moment for you?
So I think that for me, when it comes to understanding myself, and it's difficult because when I look at myself, I mean, I've been trying out different things all my life, 32 different jobs and businesses. It's difficult for me to understand, like, so some people say I'm good in this, but then I actually didn't like it. Some people say that I'm, some people say that I would be very good in this other thing, but then like I kind of like passionate but not passionate. So if I reflect on my own life, I would say that it was a lot on me when I was thinking like, so what do I really want, and can I just, super cliche, but follow my heart and what really resonated with me, even though everybody told me that it was not going to work out, right? You won't be good in this, you won't be this. How do you know? You have no psychology background. You have no masters in this. How can you be a coach and all that? So a lot of people don't say that, but I think there's one thing I would say that I think it comes back down to what you just mentioned, that it is somebody sowing that seed, and for me it's teachers, it's my principal, it's people who like, yeah, actually you're quite good in that, and when they sow that seed, the funny thing is they don't know where that seed is gonna go. They just believe in you. They don't know what is the outcome that you're gonna do. Are you gonna be a politician? Are you gonna be a baker? They don't know, but they say that you got something. Go for it. And those small things together with my just the confidence that I have that maybe I'm built for greatness. I'm built for something more. And the funny thing is that I believe that this whole idea of this Jewish proverb that seek and you shall find, and I've been seeking and I found it. So it's a lot of, I would say there's a lot of me just trying to figure out, and like, okay, I think all these things kind of like, it feels right. It feels like I'm in the flow. I feels like I'm built for this, like an eagle that's flying, an ostrich that's running, and penguin that's swimming, right? It's just, it's all right for them. And that was the feeling I had. And there was also that idea that there was a lot of seeds that people believe in you. They don't know what the hell you're going to do in the future, but they believe in you. And yeah, that's for me, which is interesting. When you ask me that question, it's not so much of you're going to be a good actor. It's just that you have potential for greatness. There's something inside you that the world needs. Go figure. And that can be enough.
More often times, it's more than
Which
enough.
is weird.
Yeah.
It's weird because it's not career directing,
Yeah.
but it's almost destiny calling.
Yeah.
It pulls you out to say that you have something to offer and you can be a lighthouse to the world, but you got to figure out what the heck that's going to be. And for you, it's acting. For me, it's coaching at this point in time.
Can I share something with you?
Go for it.
So within my studio and within the various facilitation things that I do, yes, I use acting as the medium, and the main focus is how do I teach you to be a better actor, or within the corporate world using acting tools to
get a promotion,
get a promotion,
get your
be a better leader, blah
confidence.
blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised that before I can even teach them those tools and skills, I'm spending a large majority of time doing two things. One is giving people psychological safety. And then once they have psychological safety, the next thing I'm doing is reminding them that they've always had permission. And it's just that it's been so clouded by crap.
Yes.
And
society.
And unfortunately, it's the people, places, and things that love you the most that have also kept you bound in a box.
Yes.
And so I'm saying, okay, this box has kept you alive and out of jail,
Yeah.
but it's also dulled your fire a little bit.
Big time.
How can we re-spark that fire? And all it takes is for me to say, hey, listen, you've always had that fire. How do you want to live it out? What do you want to do? I believe in you. I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
And it's just, I believe you and I'm proud of you. Suddenly you see light bulbs go off and like, I'm ready. I'm ready, coach. I'm ready. What do you want to do? Where are we going to go? What story you want to,
That's the strangest thing. The word "I believe in you," it's so vague, but yet so cutting at the same time.
Yes.
And I have no idea why. I mean, what we're chatting about this would be like, people who say that to other people have no clue that they're just putting seeds in their life that will sprout maybe in 30 years' time.
Yeah. Or not at all, which is also okay.
Or not at all if you don't take the risk.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's a powerful thing. So teachers, in your position, in my position as coaches, even in teachers in school, have a huge part to play, even parents as well.
Absolutely.
That I believe in you, you have a call in your life, you have a destiny in your life. I have zero clue what it's going to be, but I know that if you seek it, you will find it, and you will be that light.
It's my genuine belief that when one is in a position of authority and leadership, automatically your job is to be an activist. And when I say an activist is, what are you doing to activate that person to be the best version of themselves? And if you're not, then you really shouldn't be in that position of leadership, because you are only contributing to dulling that person.
Totally agree. Yeah. So coming back, that sounds like the third one. Yeah. When it comes to passion, there is also the idea of, if I am doing what I love to do, it also needs to live out a value that I have. I value something. So like for me, I value greatness. So being a coach, I see people at their potential. They can be so much better. I'm living out my value of greatness, because I believe, not only myself, I believe that I have something to offer the world, but I believe that every single person in my workshop or in my coaching has something to offer. You just need to unlock it. There may be an eagle that's running and they're like, something is wrong.
Yeah.
Don't run anymore. Try flying.
Yeah.
So for you, what is that value that every day you look forward to Mondays rather than, normal people? Everyone else, most of the time, they look forward to Fridays. Thank God it's Friday. What is that value that you're pushing, that like, this is me, this is my life, this gives me meaning and purpose? What is it? Is that the one that you're calling out, that the same thing?
So I'll make it selfish for a moment.
Okay.
The thing that I feed off the most, so to speak, I get high off it, is the light bulb moment. It's, what did I do today that helped to activate you? And you can very clearly tell when the light bulb has gone on for someone.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter how old or how young someone is when you have that light bulb moment, it's just a great rush of dopamine in the system. So I feed off the light bulb moments, and that gives me the motivation to show up on a Monday when I don't want to show up on a Monday. But within the workshop spaces that I'm in, what helps me and reminds me of my purpose, and how do I get people into that space where they can create these light bulb moments for themselves, is understanding that we're all basically made up of stories.
That's a good way of looking at it. Memory, stories.
Right.
Stories.
Like right now, your hair is a story about you. Your glasses are a story about you. This robe is a story about you. The fact that you wear black, I think every day is a story about you.
10 years.
Right? And so what is this story that you're putting out there? And then what are the choices that you're making to help elevate that story so that more people know about it, or that you're telling it in a better and a different way? And because when you are aware of your story, then you can be aware of how to tell your story, and then you can be aware of how to tell your story better. And so the light bulb moment comes from me doing one of these three things for people, because people are typically in one of these three stages. I don't know my story, or I don't know how to tell my story, or I don't know how to tell my story better. And so I'm doing one of these three things, and it's typically at one of these three stages that the light bulb will always go off. The light bulb will go off. The light bulb will go off. And that gives me my light bulb. So it's like an exchange again.
It's an exchange. I do believe that human beings, somewhere in our DNA, in our nature, it is about service to another person. It's always about that. It's always about helping somebody, serving somebody. No matter where you are, that is always one of the main drives that we have. But serve what? So yours is stories, mine is greatness. Kind of similar. And the beautiful thing, interesting, is that it sounds like in the corporate world, they love this because it's all about branding. Are you branding yourself well? But if I'm quiet and I think about it, and I'm somebody who has not much confidence in my life, and I go to something like to somebody like you and you tell me I have a story and maybe I don't believe it at the start, right? But you are in that level of authority that you believe it, so that because you believe it, okay, I think I'll believe it.
It's again,
just
I plant that seed again, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
just because of that. And it's when you share that, it's almost like there's so many stories that are hidden because they are fearful of what that story shows, or they don't know whether that is the right story. And it could be the mistakes that they have in their life, that was the bigger story than the success they have. So when it comes to this, it's almost like you are a person that is helping them look through the movies of their life and look through where it is and picking the brightest sparks and say, that is you, even though those dark moments, that is you also. But the brightest sparks are those that you, then let's see how we can tell it better.
Right. And then I'm giving you the spotlight.
Yes.
Time to step into the spotlight.
Yeah. So interestingly, when I do coaching, one thing that, especially in our society now, we are very cognitive. That means we're always about thinking. That is who we are. The emotion and the body, we don't really bother about it. At work, sometimes it's like, leave your emotions out the door. Right? But I do believe that, just your thoughts, a whole person needs both. Needs everything. You need the emotions. You need to understand your emotions. You need to feel it as well. So a confident person who is closed up is not telling the right story, even though he's confident. So how would you do you see that everybody comes in like, everything is up here, forget about my emotions, forget about my stories, this is silly. Usually those are the people who sometimes will turn, right? There are people like, I don't know, my company just sent me this now.
Right.
What would you think about, like, if a human being is just all cognitive, all thinking, forget about emotions, forget about body? What happens?
You have an imbalance. And then what happens is, because you're operating in a system that is not in balance, then what happens is you have an atrophy of the body. And that
because I
atrophy
don't
of
care
the
about
body,
it.
because you don't care about it,
about
and you think, oh, I don't need to use my emotion at work. I don't need to use my body at work. Let me just use my brain.
Yes.
Or you're overusing this one muscle and underusing everything else.
Yeah.
But the reality is this is 10% of the entire instrument that you can tune and play with.
True.
And at a certain point, if this string breaks, the whole system has collapsed. But if I know how to tune my whole instrument and play with all 5-7 strings, if one string breaks, I can still play anyway. And so part of understanding, okay, sure, I might operate with only one string. How can I dust off the other 5-6 strings and understand that, okay, it is easier for me to always play with the one string, but I now have the ability to slowly toy around with these other 5-6 other strings. And then slowly, I get more comfortable with playing with the other strings. And then, again, it's all just muscles. It's all muscles that you have atrophied or have been turned off for a long period of time. Eventually, you learn to get comfortable with those muscles. And then your system learns to be more in balance. So you're not dependent on just the one thing. The problem is...
Your system becomes more balanced, you mean?
Yes. Your system becomes more balanced because you understand that I'm not just the mental and intellectual. I am the physical and vocal. I am the spiritual, emotional, psychological person. I am also part of the person that needs to practice self-care and self-soothing and recharging my batteries in whatever way, shape, or form. I am all of these things. I'm not just the one thing. And it's just part of my story to them is sort of, acting. One of the many definitions of acting is turning a mirror up to nature, right? So then I'm turning a mirror to you and say, hey, listen, Jason, are you aware that based on what I've seen, you're only using one string? Are you aware you've got all these other strings?
And they're not aware.
A lot of times they're not aware, or they have been told, or there's some sort of tape playing in the back of their mind that, I really shouldn't be playing with these 4 other strings. I can only play with the one string. Right. And then it's, again, giving them the psychological safety and either giving them the permission or reminding them they always had permission to play with all. And then let's create these low stakes, high return environments where, like coaching environments, like workshop spaces where if you fail, so what? Right? And then so that you also don't build this umbilical cord to the workshop or to the coaching, then in your own personal life, your own professional life, with your loved ones who understand you, who will support you no matter what, unconditional love. Can you create opportunities, low stakes, high return, where with your wife, hey, I'm going to be trying out a different way of communicating with you.
Everything I have, not
Right.
just here.
Correct.
Yeah.
You know, if I end up being more emotional, understand that it's a reflection of me trying out something new.
Yeah.
If you see me going back to my old patterns,
Yeah.
give me some feedback. I trust you and I love you enough that you'll give me that honest feedback.
Right.
And again, people develop the ability to go, oh, actually using these other muscles,
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt and actually it feels better and it's more sustainable.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then
It's
you
more
slowly,
authentic.
yes.
Yeah, it's
more
you,
authentic.
and but it's been suppressed.
Yes. And then you slowly bleed that into
Yeah.
your professional life and other aspects of your
Yeah.
personal life.
Yeah. When I see people who are extremely logical,
Yeah.
right? I see that there's one part that just doesn't push out what they really mean. So even like, for example, if you want to influence somebody and you're on stage, you're trying to get somebody to go from this side to this side. It could be a leader, it could be a team project manager and all that. And if you are just monotonous and just talking, somehow or rather it doesn't affect the people to a point where I have the unction to move at all. But if you start to use everything, it is just something that it's almost like that is the way human beings are supposed to be built. I buy that. And that's the funny thing. It's almost like we've lost it in culture, we've lost it in society, and besides acting and all that, I don't see it's the only other way I can think about a human being going to that, the idea of emotions and all that, it's through going into either therapy, where we need to get in touch with our emotions, or religion. And it's a lot more like, where's the energy you feel and all that. So you are creating a space where it's almost like people need it, but they don't know they need it. And acting is a way that they can actually bring forth that balance of like not only your thoughts, your emotions, also your body. Beautiful.
And even going back to that person who's not fully engaged when they're sharing, that monotony either in voice or body or whatever it is, there's a principle within acting is when you're interested, you're interesting. And that level of interest comes in not just the message, the intellectual message, but the interest in everything, every aspect of your instrument in delivering that message.
So that's why when we were younger, in primary school, a teacher that is just using their logic to teach doesn't buy us over.
Right.
But a teacher who has the fire in their eyes, they have that body language that just comes out of nowhere. I don't know who, maybe they're just really interested in that topic. We get A's for that. Naturally. So it's almost that influence that people are using only one string out of 7. And that's really sad. Okay, so I want to hear from you. Now you know that passion, and people have many different passions. Is this your passion for the rest of your life, or is that maybe something else?
This is it. This is it, baby. This is like, again, all in, baby.
Right.
It really is. Look at...
no, because people change, and I can have different passions. So I had passion last time as a logo designer, and I had passion with Mark, playing songs on the streets of Orchard Road, but it changed to coaching and all that. But for you, how come you're so sure?
This is not to say that my business might evolve. I might evolve. I might learn new tools and skills.
But it's around here.
But it will always be around the idea of, what is your story? How can I help you tell your story? How can I help you tell it better?
Right.
And whether it's my own story as an actor, whether it's the stories of others as a director, whether it's my own story, or whether it's other people's stories as a facilitator, it's always around story and the exchange and the transaction of story.
Got it.
I think that will always be there, regardless of whatever form it takes.
So it might take a different form, but the core ingredient will always be there.
100%.
Okay,
100%. Because we're all made of stories.
Yeah. It's a different way of looking at it. So I've heard before that we're all made of memories. So for example, with you and your children, for me and my children, for example, it is the trying to create those memories. Another way of saying is trying to create those stories and what it means to that person. So hopefully it means good. Right. So one last thing. I love life hacks. I love life hacks. And I want something practical that you feel that, let's say, in everything that you've learned, all these instruments and all that, what is one life hack that you can share with me, share with the audience that, hey, if you do this, it's going to be a lot more better. It's not a lot better in terms of results or whatever it is.
Can I share two?
Sure.
Okay. So within the world of acting, one of the big beliefs that we have is in your choices lies your talent. No one will really be able to see how talented you are unless you make a really strong, consistent, justified choice.
Okay.
And the stronger, more consistent and justified the choice, the easier it is for me to go, I want to cast you, or yes, I want to promote you.
Okay.
And so one of the ways in which we can help ourselves before going into that interview room, before going into the audition room, is very often we're bringing the chaos of our outside lives into that room, that interview room where it really matters. And that could be as simple as I ran here from the bus, or
Because I'm going to be late.
Because I'm going to be late.
And I'm anxious.
That's one. Or two, even if you came on time, typically what are most people doing on buses or trains or in the waiting rooms?
Trying to read through their resume, trying to
or they're all
on their phone distracted.
Right? And just this posture is the posture of begging and weakness.
Right.
All right. And you're literally training your body's biochemistry
Yes.
to be weak and beg. And then you're going into this room where you're expected to be this best version of yourself. Who are you kidding? I mean, why would you do that?
Difficult.
Put your phone away.
Yeah.
And take a couple moments, just be present, ground yourself in what you're about to do, and what that. And I know you might hear that all the time, like, especially in the workplace. Be present, be present. What does that actually look like? It could be as simple as box breathing, which is inhale for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, inhale for 4 again.
Okay.
So that's box breathing. Or another version is inhale for 4, hold for 7, out for 8.
Okay.
So that's one way to just get present. And as I get present, what I can begin to do is, can I visualize in a high definition sort of way, what does this audition look like? The best version of this audition look like? What is the best version of this interview look like? And not just, again, intellectual. Don't play with the one string of, I want a good interview. It is, can I play with all strings? Can I see smiles? Can I hear laughter? Can I feel the handshake? Can I hear phrases like, yes, you're the person we've been looking for? Can I make it sensorial? Because all those memories, all those stories are sensorial. That's why it sticks with us. So why not create these vision boards in your movie, in your mind, that are sensorial? So it's that grounded breathing. It's that sensorial high definition intention.
Right.
Now I'm cheating a little bit. I'm going to give you the third one. And the third one is, it's okay if you're anxious. It's okay if you're nervous. Understand that there's a very, very quick hack that you can do to reset the body.
Okay.
And all you got to do is blow on your left thumb.
You're kidding, right?
No, I'm not. So the next time that you're nervous, anxious, and typically that manifests with like or
short breaths or something.
Or short breaths, or like, hi, I'm Kamil, right? When you blow on your left thumb, what you're doing is you're activating a nerve in your body called the vagus nerve, VAGUS, and you can look it up. It is the longest nerve in the human body. It controls your parasympathetic functions. In short, like we don't do the science, it controls your heart and lungs. And so by blowing in your left thumbnail, you're activating your heart to slow it down. You're activating your lungs to go, okay, let's get in control of our breath. And so just this, you're now getting yourself more centered. I've coached people to do this before they go into the room. I've coached people where for example, if I had a pen, so tell me more about what's next for the work here. So I'm disguising it with the pen in my hand and I'm blowing on my left thumb. You have no idea.
Blowing means that I am just blowing it.
Yeah. That's it. And all you're doing is you're activating it. Mind you, if you were to Google how to activate your vagus nerve online, there are hundreds of ways. For example, dipping it in a glass of cold water.
Okay.
I don't think you want to do that in a meeting or an audition.
So
right?
It's the most
discreet way.
Discreet way you can center yourself.
Correct.
Interesting.
Breathing in high definition intention.
High definition.
And then thumbs up, cool down the system.
I like the fact that you said that the posture usually is begging mode, and so the beautiful thing, what I understand in terms of body, where it connects to emotions and your mind, you can either switch your mind and your body will follow.
Correct.
But the other way is also true. When you switch your body just by doing this, or there's something they call it the power Superman stance for a few seconds. It switches your emotion and it switches your mind as well. So it's actually linked
all linked because it's all 5 strings. Just play with the full instrument. Don't play with 1/5 of your instrument.
That is true.
Yeah.
That's true. All right. Thank you so much, Kamil, for being on this show. Any last words that you want to share with people, especially if they're trying to just go for a passion they have in the arts? Do they need to, let's say I really want to try this out, but I got issues with my mortgage and things like that. I got practicality. And for me, arts, even though it's a passion, it's going to be a passion and I'm going to just die like that. So anything that you want to share?
That it's okay if you need to prioritize putting food on the table
Yeah.
and making sure that your bills are paid.
Yeah.
That's okay. It's understanding that in different seasons of your life,
Yeah.
you prioritize different things. But if this is something that you really want to do,
Yeah.
it may not be to the level that you envisioned. Like, I want to be the next Oscar, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. The definition of amateur, and very often people have, it comes with a lot of negative connotations to be an amateur.
Yeah.
But the root of being an amateur is the love of something. And so even if you never get to the professional standards that you set out,
Yeah.
then become a professional amateur. Do it for the love of it.
Yeah.
In the pockets of spaces that you have.
Yeah.
Build conversations with people that allow you to keep that fire burning and
Right.
alive. Because the last thing you want to do is, okay, I've put food on the table, I've got my bills paid, and now I'm 65 and I'm getting ready to retire.
Yeah.
Oh, if only I had.
Yes.
I wish I had.
Yeah.
Why wait? There are ways to do both.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just, can you reconcile that it may not be to the level that you want it to be, but
Yeah.
you still get to keep that flame alive? Better alive than dead. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that quite often when it comes to, you don't have to be a pro. You can be a person that just is able to live out that passion. It might not be, for whatever practical reasons, it might not be your career, but if you don't do that, there's something missing in your life. It will but if you do that overflow, something will be brighter in your life. Everything else will be brighter because you were able to engage the passion that you have.
Correct.
Awesome. All right. So thank you so much, Kamil, for your time here. And for the rest of us, if I want to try to find you, where do I find you?
You can find me on my studio's website.
Yeah.
It's methodactingasia.com.
Okay.
Or you can find me on Instagram at Kamhaq, Kamhaq.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your time, man.
Thank you.